Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Eventful Endeavors. I'm your host, Spencer. Today, I am very excited to announce we have a guest talking all things weddings with someone who truly knows how to make magic happen. Joining me today is Maryland Plumey-Marin, the founder and creative force behind Amore Events II. That's right, I said two. Her team specializes in stress-free, full-service wedding planning designs, helping couples bring their vision to life while enjoying the process. From vendor coordination to beautiful details and seamless execution, she's seen it all. And we're diving into wedding planning tips, common mistakes, and how to stay stress-free while planning your big day. So let's get into it. Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm super excited.
Happy to have you here. I guess my first question is, Marilyn, tell us what is going on these days with the trends. What are you noticing that's new that these young couples are doing?
Well, definitely a new trend. The big weddings are not as popular as they were after COVID, that everybody was like, oh, let's have big parties. So a lot of people are more financially conscious as well. People want to get the most for their buck. They're taking longer to book. And when they do that, they're also taking the risk of losing the day, which I see all the time. I just had that happen this week with a bride. She waited a long time to book the venue and she lost the date. So then she had to start a new search. So, I see that happening. People are kind of procrastinating and they don't really understand the importance of locking in your date because anyone can come in and just grab it, and especially if you fall in love with the place, you want to lock it in. People are they want to see how much more they can get for what they're paying for. They are doing smaller events, which cost a lot less than doing the big weddings. Because when you do a big wedding, it's not only food, it's beverages, it's cake. So it's everything. You got to have a bigger space. So you're going to pay more money for a bigger space compared to a smaller, intimate location. So a lot of people are really doing more research now, which in a way is good. I like when I meet with clients and they're ready to book and they know what they want and they tell you, I want this and this and this. And that just makes the process a lot easier when people know what they want. It's like when you go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, but you went into the restaurant because you felt like eating a certain thing in that restaurant. So you already had an idea of what you wanted to eat when you went to that specific restaurant. So it's the same thing when people are shopping. Some people come to me because I've been around for so long. I've had my business for 9 years. So I have a good reputation. I'm a straight shooter. I don't sugarcoat it. I let people know how it is. And I'm always going to look out for my client and make the process fun because it has to be fun. It should not be stressful at all, especially if you have the correct planner. It should be a lot of fun. It should definitely be something that you're going to remember forever. Not that you have like a nightmare planning, like, oh my God, it was horrible planning everything. That's not a good experience. That's not a good way to get started. Especially planning, your wedding or your daughter's quince or an anniversary. Those are milestones, those are things that people are going to remember for the rest of their lives. So the moment that they start planning, it has to be fun. It should not be stressful at all. And that's how I got into this business. I had a horrible experience at my wedding and I got a coordinator that did not know how to coordinate and it just became a nightmare for me. And that's how Amore came about. I have 5 daughters and I did 4 huge sweet 16s and I did 1 huge baby shower. And that's how the whole planning got started for me, and then friends and family would come, oh, can you do my daughters? Can you do my daughters? And it just snowballed from there. And I figured out really quickly that I really enjoyed doing the planning and putting the whole thing together. And it was just a lot of fun for me. And when I had that experience with my wedding, I was like, I live in Deltona. And at the time, there was no venues in Deltona. I was like, Deltona needs a venue, where we don't have to drive so far away to go have a party or a celebration. And we ended up finding, the perfect spot. And we were there for 8 years. And then we moved to Sanford. And then we were there for about a year and a half, and they sold the building and we had to, move out. So now I have partnered up with many beautiful venues. So now my clients are super lucky because now they have a nice selection of spaces that they can pick from lower end to higher end. And it all depends on their budget. And when someone is planning an event, they really need to be realistic and know how much they're willing to spend. If their budget is dollars, okay, is that $7,000 for just the venue or is that for the whole party? And some people are like, oh, I don't really know. Well, you got to know. You have to know how much you're willing to spend on your wedding because you got to buy food. You got to pay for a venue. You got to pay for a decorator. If you want your event to run smooth, you got to pay for a coordinator. And these are all moving parts of planning an event. If you get lucky and you end up with me, then you don't got to worry about anything because I take care of everything. All you got to worry about is what you're wearing that day and at what time you're showing up when you're my client. I take care of all that stressful stuff, and I walk my clients through the process. I give them homework, but not all at the same time. I don't like to overwhelm people. Yes, there's stuff that we got to do, but you don't have to do it all in one day. But you can do it gradually. The most important thing is creating your guest list because that's going to give you an idea of how big your party is going to be. That's going to give me an idea so I can give you the correct price for catering. I can give you the correct venue for how big or small your event is. And so the most important part out of planning an event is number one, the date, how many people, and then location. So it's always the first thing is always going to be the date, how many people, because then if you want to do an intimate wedding, or you want to do a big wedding, or you want to do like a medium sized event, that's going to be the biggest piece of the puzzle. Because once you know how many people you're going to have, then now you know the size of your venue. How far do you want to go out? Do you want to stay in your area? Are you willing to go out a little further? Sometimes you find beautiful venues, but they're just maybe 30 minutes away, To me, I tell people, don't limit yourself to where you live because there are so many beautiful venues in Florida. You have outdoor, you have indoor, especially being in Florida, you always got to have a backup plan for if it rains, which we all know that is always raining in Florida. It could rain for an hour and 10 minutes later it's 80 degrees and everything is dry. So, these are all moving parts of planning an event. And when people are planning their event, it's a very emotional planning. They get all excited and they get attached to things. And sometimes you have to walk in with your eyes wide open, and I am always like devil's advocate. I'm like, don't forget this, don't forget that, don't forget this. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of all those things. And I'm like, I know that's my job to remind you of all this other stuff. So people just get, really excited and emotional and they just like, okay, I want to do this. But then they're not looking at the numbers. They're not looking at the full picture, of what they can realistically afford, So I like to always, when I speak to my clients, get as much information at the beginning of the conversation before they fall in love with anything. And something that I learned of doing this for so long now, never take a client to see a venue if they cannot afford that venue. Because you're attempting to introduce something, and a lot of times that venue is not in their budget. So it's not fair to the client to take them somewhere where you know that they cannot afford it. You're setting them up to fail, And sometimes planners don't think about those things, And I've been on both sides of the spectrum. So I always put myself in my client's shoes, you know? And that's why I like to know from the beginning, what is your realistic budget? Is there room to wiggle? Or if this is firm and final? So then we know, okay, we need to find a venue that's going to cost this much because the food is going to be this much and we can keep them within that budget. I belong to so many groups on Facebook, and every day I see people asking questions. Can you do a wedding for $7,000? Yes, you can. It's not going to be nothing elaborate, but yes, you can
Right.
pull it off. You can find a venue that is affordable, find a caterer that, you know, will do a nice, simple dinner, nothing elaborate. They are
Hmm.
bridal shops, then especially now at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of clearance because the spring line is coming in. So they got to make room with all this old inventory. So a lot of brides, this is the best time to shop at the beginning of the year because everything's on inventory from last year. It's ready to go out the door. And these are little things that a lot of people don't know. And if you're not a planner and you're not in the industry, you wouldn't know that, you know, all the at the beginning of the year, we get introduced to the colors of the year. You know, this year is going to be like the brownish and the maroons, you know. The dusty blue is a very popular, you know, spring color and summer color. So every year is always a different color that is more popular than another. Every year, every single bridal shop throws a blowout sale. For example, when my daughter got married, she got married at my venue and her wedding was in May. And I was like, you need to come at the beginning of the year to my friend's bridal shop. She's having a big sale on this weekend. She came and we walked out of there with a wedding dress and a veil for $1,000. $1,000 with both.
Incredible.
That's a
Wow.
good deal, you know, like that was a
Now,
great
was
deal.
that a connection thing, or just you just knew how to
No,
time the
I timed it perfectly. My friend told me when she was having the sale. I told my daughter she got her ticket because she was a out of state client. You know, she lived in
got
Pennsylvania.
it.
She flew in and I was, you know, she did her wedding at my venue. So she got a lot of extras, of course, because she's my daughter. But she was a paying client like anyone else. And when she would come into town, I would have everything lined up. You know, today we're going to do dress. And then in the afternoon, we'll do food tasting and cake tasting. Then when she came 2 times and in 2 visits, we planned the whole wedding, you know? And it's that kind of professionalism that you need when you're planning any event because it has to be easy and fun and smooth, not stressful at all. And especially when you're working with professionals that they get the industry, they know everything has to be timed perfectly. So the experience is fun for the clients. You also make it fun for yourself because we got to have fun when we're planning, you know? And you get to taste different foods when you go with your client to taste the catering. And, you know, you want your client to be very well informed when they leave that appointment. And if they have any questions, you want to make sure you're answering all the questions they have before you leave that appointment. You know, you want them to be ready and satisfied with the experience that they just got, you know, because everything is an experience. You know, I always say when you meet someone, you only have a couple seconds to make an impression. And
That's true.
when you're talking to someone, by the way they're talking to you, they're going to know, okay, this is someone that I want to work with. This is someone that knows what they're talking about. This is someone that is confident in what they're doing. So you only have a couple seconds to transform that conversation into a lot of knowledge for your client. You want to give them the information they need, but you don't want to overwhelm them either. You know what I mean? So, like last night, I had a bride call me and she's like, oh, I was referred to you by my friends, you know, my friends. And she started naming people. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, I know that circle. And then I was like, okay, so what's your name? And she said her name. And I was like, it doesn't ring a bell. So then she says, but we're friends on Facebook. And my name on Facebook is Maldonado. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly who you are. When she said the initials of her Facebook name, I knew exactly who she was. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you. You're getting married. And she was like, yes. And I'm stressed out. And I'm like, nope. You're not going to be stressed out. Don't start a conversation saying you're stressed out. Nope. You're shopping around right now and you're looking at your options. And she goes, yeah, I like the way you said that. And I said, no, this is supposed to be a fun experience. So then she was like, can I meet with
Sure.
you tomorrow? So I am meeting with them today at 6 o'clock. And she said, let me
Beautiful.
call my team. And so we can all coordinate a time to meet with you. And I was like, absolutely. I work around your clock, your time. I don't do this part time. I do this full time. This is my full time job. So if you're available at 7, then I'll meet you at 7. If you're available at 8, I'll meet you at 8. So whatever time works for you is okay with me. And she was like, my God, even though it's late. And I said, yeah, it doesn't matter. This is what I do. I don't have a full time job that I got to go run to my office and then meet with a client. I don't do that. I work for you. So I'm available anytime that you're available. And she was like, okay, so I'm excited. I can't wait to see you. And I told her, I don't have my venue, but I do have other venues. And then she was like, oh, can you name a few? And I was like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that because I need to focus on what you're looking for first before I start talking about
Sure.
venues. And she
Absolutely.
was like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to give anyone venue names or no, you need to hire me and then we'll talk about venues and stuff like that. I've had experiences where I gave a lot of information to someone. They went, they got the venue, but they didn't hire me. So I just worked for free
Right.
you know? And
For
a lot
free.
of
Yeah,
people will
absolutely.
do that. They will do that, try to get information so they can go on their own and book it. And it's like, hey, that's fine, but use Google, don't use me, to try to get
Yeah, yeah, understood.
venues, you know what I mean? So, and I like to learn like their story, how they got together, because that's what we're focused on is your special day. Why are you getting married? Why is this so important to you, right? What's your meaning for doing this event? So once you explain to me, "Oh, we met, da 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 da," then now I'm understanding the story, because it's a story that we're presenting that day, that now is coming full circle that they're getting married, or like a mom planning her daughter's quince. That is such an emotional day, let me tell you. And I tell moms, make sure you're the last one to get dressed because you're going to be getting your daughter dressed, getting her into that big giant dress, and you're going to start sweating and you're going to be hot. And you don't want to do that when you're
Sure.
all dressed up.
Right.
And they look at me and they're
Absolutely
like,
not.
that's a good tip. I never thought of it like that. And I'm like, yeah, you want to be the last one to get dressed so then you're ready to walk out the door. And they're like, thank you for that little tip, and I don't mind giving tips like that, because a lot of people are so caught up in the moment, and
Sure. They're not thinking.
that's what we want them to be caught up in the moment and not worried about anything else.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I mean, you did a great job at kind of covering a lot of good topics, especially when it comes to budget, first time planning advice, a lot of secrets. But I have to acknowledge something that we haven't talked about, Marilyn. As I believe I should say congratulations because I think you guys just had your grand opening last Sunday on February 1st. Is that correct in Deltona?
That is correct. We had our grand opening on Sunday
Congratulations.
and it was really nice. A lot of people showed up and everyone literally stayed for the whole 3 hours, which I thought people were just going to come and say hi and leave.
Right.
But
Sure.
the conversation was so good that everyone just stayed. They enjoyed the food that we had had to give a shout out to Carmen from Sweet and Salao. The food was amazing. Everyone ate twice. Want to give a shout out to one of my preferred DJs, DJ Barber. He
Hmm.
gifted us his
Shout out DJ Barber.
services and he was here the whole 3 hours and he did an amazing job. And shout out to Sugar Chick Cakes by Nini. She gifted us a cake. It was a tres leche cake. I only took home a little piece because everyone loved it. So it was gone
Yeah.
immediately once I cut it. And of course, I want to give a shout out to the Hispanic Chamber of Central Florida. They are the ones that encouraged me to take my office here and do my grand opening. And they were like, the place is yours, do what you want. And I just want to say thank you to them, for always being so supportive of me and my business and kind of giving me that little push to take that leap of faith, and here we are. We've gotten two
Here we are.
bookings this month. So I just got back in January, jumped in with both feet, and I booked the baby shower and I booked the wedding. I booked the wedding this Friday, and the wedding is on Saturday. So I only got a week to get ready.
Wow.
So last night I was
Wow,
making
that's
flower
wild.
arrangements, and she was like, "You think you could pull it off?" I was like, "I got this. I got plenty of inventory that I can do it." So last night I was working on 3 floral arrangements and didn't get to bed until midnight, but I pulled it off. And then this morning went to chamber meeting, and I was like, I feel like I was a very short night. So we're super excited, this new journey that we're on. And I always say, if you don't grow, you're stuck. And you can't stay stuck on neutral. You got to keep growing and keep moving. And you got to continue to show up for yourself as an entrepreneur because ain't nobody going to come and tell you to get out of bed. Ain't nobody going to tell you to get dressed and go to the meeting. Nobody's going to help you connect with other people unless you show up for yourself. So I always tell a lot of entrepreneurs, we are our worst enemy. We doubt ourselves. We sometimes feel like, oh, can I really do this? Yes, you can. God gave you that idea for a reason. And if you can't get it out of your head, that means you got to do something with it. So step out on faith, follow your dreams, follow your heart, keep that fire in your belly, keep going forward, making new connections. At my grand opening, I had a DJ. He came with his wife. They own a DJ company and a photo booth company. And then I had my neighbor. She just opened a tattoo place here. She does tattoos for people that are recovering from surgeries. If you want to camouflage that scar, things like that. She also does like permanent tattoos and makeup and all that stuff. And she was here on Sunday, and she was the first one that showed up, and we started talking, and she was like, "I'm gonna go with you to the chamber meeting. I know you invited me, and I'm gonna go." And I said, "You gotta just take that first step. Once you get that ball rolling, you just keep pushing that ball. And I'm so happy to say today, both of them joined me at the meeting. I introduced them to a whole bunch of people. They made connections, and we got invited to another meeting tomorrow with BNI in the land. And I said, see, if all 3 of us did not show up this morning, we would have never been invited to that meeting tomorrow. So we got to continue to
That's
show up for
incredible.
ourselves as entrepreneurs. We're
I
making
think
an
there's like a
income.
term for that.
Yeah, we're making an income out of thin air because we are the ones that
Wow.
determine
Yeah.
our own income, right? When we're entrepreneurs, we don't have that regular check on Friday. So if you don't step out on faith and hustle and bustle and get out there and network with people, make genuine connections because that's what I'm about. I'm not
Mhm.
about, I know a guy that knows a guy. No, I can vouch for this vendor, for this person because I've gotten to know them. And I don't just refer people just to refer people. I refer people that I've made connections with, that I have a relationship with, that I can trust them. Because at the end of the day, when you refer someone, it's your name that you're putting on the line,
Right.
right? Because that person trusts you. So you're referring somebody. So you can't just refer people just to refer. You got to genuinely know who you're referring. Is that person going to show up on time? Is that person responsible? Because I don't want that they do something bad and then it reflects back on me, and then that makes your business look bad when someone doesn't show up, when someone is not responsible. So that's why I'm very big on building relationships before I can refer anyone. So, those are all things that I've learned in the business world because we are in a different world when you're an entrepreneur. It's not just meeting people and collecting cards. I want to be known for being someone responsible, someone that shows up for her business, someone that is a hard worker. That's what I want to be known for and respected for, that I'm a very honest person. I'm humbled. And I thank God every day for all the opportunities that He's given me this year. And let me tell you, God is showing off because right now, appointments are coming in left and right. And I'm like, okay, my overflow is here and my blessings are coming. And so many people have shown up for me in many different ways. And my husband's like, honey, you have helped so many businesses when they first started. You were the first one to give them that first opportunity. And they've built a relationship with you, and they're your preferred vendors. And now they're showing up for you. Now it's your turn. And I'm like, I know it's hard to be on the receiving end when you're always the giver, but it feels great to know that I have that kind of community behind me and that I do have those
Absolutely.
vendors that are supportive. It really humbles you, and it keeps you grounded
Yeah,
that you are
sure.
surrounded by people like that. So tell me how you guys got started with this podcasting.
So it was before I joined the team, but essentially it's kind of how I explained earlier, where it gives us a chance to one, get to know people that we worked with, planners, venues, country clubs, all that. And it also allows us to promote the community. I know we talked earlier about just a community within the community. So whether it's private events, it's for us, we work a lot of these same venues and sometimes we work adjacent with other vendors. And so for our end, it's just really about talking everything event centric. Obviously, we're focusing on weddings in today's episode, but the main goal is just to get more content for everybody. Because the way we see it, if the content does good, everybody does good. The more people know about the industry, that learn from professionals like yourself who've been in the industry for such a long time, it only helps to share that information. And thus, you can also share it with your clients. It's kind of, we're just spreading free, valuable content, is what I would say. That's kind of the goal behind the whole podcast. And so far, it's been great. I mean, even in this brief interview that we've done today, you've covered so many topics that I was going to ask about, whether it came to the availability, the expectations, the budget, the problem solving, and more importantly, something that you spoke a lot about with that. For me, because I got married last month, that means a lot is you care about the client, you care about the connections, the emotions, the professionalism, making it stress free because you are telling a story, and this is the best part of the story. The last thing you want is a bunch of hiccups and a bunch of nuance that should be fun, and it can be fun. I mean, I in hindsight, I wish I had a wedding planner because we had a coordinator, but we didn't have a planner. So man, I almost wish I could have hired you, to be honest. After hearing all that, you definitely know what you're talking about, and it shows through your passion. It shows through your entrepreneurship and your reputation. Clearly, you didn't get here by accident. That's there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And I really do truly love what I do. And I think it shows and when I'm speaking and how I carry myself. When I'm meeting with a client, I like to be dressed up and present myself correctly. Because, like I said, I only have a few minutes to establish that connection and find a way that I
Yeah,
can be on the same level with that client. And I've also learned that not everyone is your client. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but not everyone is your client. And sometimes it's okay to walk away from someone that makes you feel uncomfortable. I would never take on a contract if a person made me feel uncomfortable from the beginning. I would say, I would love to work with you, but unfortunately, I don't think we're a good match for each other. We're on, different spectrums. And, I can recommend this other, planner or decorator and might be a better fit for you. I've definitely have handed off clients to other event planners that I felt were not a good fit for me. And, they're planners on different levels, right? For different budgets. So I feel I consider myself in the middle. I don't think I'm too expensive, but I give quality. So quality cost is not cheap. I always say you get what you pay for, right? A lot of people, they're like, oh, I want a wedding for $1,000. Okay, you can have a wedding for $1,000. You can go to Publix and get a cake there. You can cook
you can go out to
yourself.
the public park.
Yes, and you
Yeah,
can rent some tables and chairs and do it in your backyard.
right.
And you could
There you
just
go.
rent a couple of things and there you go. You got $1,000 wedding. But you're not gonna find
That's
a
right.
decorator or a planner that's gonna come and do $1,000 wedding. That's not realistic. And
No,
sometimes
not
people
today's
don't.
market.
No, I mean, even now when you go to the supermarket just to do groceries, we're spending three times what we were spending a couple months ago. I mean, a year ago,
It's wild.
because that's when all this craziness happened a year ago. And even when we go to do groceries, we're dropping a lot of money just to do groceries. So imagine having to do an event. You need to be prepared financially to do that event. And the best way you could prepare yourself is plan 2 years or a year ahead of time. Don't wait for a couple months. Do it a year or 2 years, especially if you want a higher end wedding. You need time to pay it off. You could do a layaway plan. I offer payment plans to all my clients if they got the time. Sometimes they come and they're like, oh, I only got 3 months. Well, then I guess you only got 3 months to come up with the money. But if you
Right.
plan accordingly, then you can have a beautiful event with all the whistles, but you got to start at least 2 years out. So you could get yourself on a payment plan. You could make your monthly payments where they're not breaking the bank. It just becomes another bill. Your wedding comes, everything's paid in full. You don't owe nobody no money. Everything is good and you're stress free. That's when you have
That's
a
the way to
good
be.
event planner. And the key to any event is always having a good event planner. People try to not use an event planner because they think they're going to save money, but actually you spend double of what you would have paid a planner because you're buying things that you don't need. You're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You're wasting a lot of time because you don't really know what you're doing. So you tend to spend more when you don't have someone guiding you.
And time is valuable as well. Like you said, even if there's not a cost to it, you're still spending time, and time is money.
Time is money. Yeah. Especially when you're wasting your time on something that you could have been doing something else. You know what I mean? So, but
Of course.
I just enjoy what I do. I'm super excited. Right now, I've partnered up with three venues. Two of them are like barns, and one of them is on the waterfront in downtown Sanford. And this afternoon, I'm going over there to learn their system. So I'm going to be their sales representative for the Gallium in downtown Sanford. It's a beautiful venue. It has waterfront views and her prices are very affordable. And I'm going to be part of that venue. So you're going to get a planner. So it'll be a win-win, for any client that comes through there. They get a planner with the venue, because that was what I offered when I had my venue. When you book the venue with us, you got a planner and a decorator. And not too many venues
It's
offer that. So
No,
that's what
they
I'm
don't.
trying to
They don't.
create
That could set you
for
guys
the
apart.
gathering. It does. It does. And
So from s- so No, I was gonna say, so from raising your kids, having your own issues planning your wedding, to having your kids planning their weddings, their quince days, all these years later, it's become your passion, and it shows. It shows. I can see it on your face that this is what you love to do. It's what you're meant to do, and it's cool. I mean, even for me in this podcast and the other side hosting, and I'm like, it just makes me more happy because I'm very fortunate. I get to do music full time. I mean, that's what I love doing. Obviously, as you know, even when you choose your passion, there comes peaks and valleys and trials and tribulations, but it's hard to understate how good it is when you do something that fulfills you in life. I mean, that to me is the sweet spot. Even if the lows are low, not everyone gets that experience, and I think that's one of the coolest things about what you and I both do is we really enjoy what we do, even with the good and the bad. For better or worse, we enjoy what we do.
yeah, I have a lot of people tell me, wow, you have a lot of patience because you're dealing with all kinds of people. And I'm like, I do
That's
have a lot of
correct. Yes.
patience, but there are those days where you get those clients that would drive you insane. And it's like, okay, how
Hmm.
do I deal with this? How do I keep my professionalism? And you got to find ways, to get your point across and say, at the end of the day, I'm your planner. You hire me to do a job, so let me do it, right? You hire me
I love
so
that.
you're not stressed out. You hire me to plan it because I do this every day. I'm not doing this part time. I do this full time. And not too many people could say that too, because there are a lot of planners that still have a full time job because they're not doing the planning full time. So you have a lot of planners that's still juggling a lot of stuff. I thank God that I have the opportunity to do this full time. And my husband loves me enough to sacrifice for me and came out of retirement so I can fulfill my dreams and continue to follow my dreams. And he's always my biggest cheerleader. and my biggest supporter. And I think having that kind of support makes a world of a difference, when your spouse is on the same page with you, and that's an advice that I give anyone. If you're getting married, you gotta both be on the same page, because if not, don't get married,
Hmm.
Like, if you're questioning
Absolutely.
yourself and things are not really going right, it's okay. You could postpone the wedding for a little bit and then get married later. It doesn't say anywhere that it has to be right now. And I've had clients sit in front of me and realize that right now is not the time to get married. And
Not the
it's like,
time. Not the
I'm
time to
okay with
do it.
that,
Wow.
and I'm glad you came to that term on your own without, being at the altar freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm not ready to do this, And believe me, I've had so many experiences and I've seen so many things. And it's like, it's amazing how humans are, like you said, we have our highs and lows, and you just got to find ways to stay positive. And for me to stay positive, I always try to encourage others, right? Because there's no such thing as having a perfect life or a perfect day. That just doesn't exist. Everybody has their moments. Even when I'm at my peak and my highest, I'll break down crying because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so blessed to be where I am today, And like today, I was driving
Hmm.
to the Hispanic Chamber meeting and I was having a conversation with God. I'm like, thank you for waking me up today. Thank you for giving me this car that I'm driving to this meeting and I'm warm in this car. Thank you for connecting me to
Right.
all these amazing people. Thank you for, letting my grand opening be successful. Thank you for the phone call I got last night and I got an appointment today. Like, thank you for all these blessings that you're giving me. I have to be thankful and I have to stay humbled because I've had it all and I've lost it all. Okay. Before Amore became about, I used to have a daycare center in Pennsylvania, very successful, had it for 3 years. And then I went through a nasty divorce and I needed to move out of Pennsylvania because it was that bad. Like, I was like, oh no, I need a fresh start.
Yeah.
And I moved here. And when I got here, I was overqualified for everything I applied for. So I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to feed my kids if I'm overqualified for every job? So I became homeless because when you don't have a job coming in, you ain't got no money, you can't pay the rent. I became homeless with 3 kids. I had to move in with my
Wow.
oldest
What a
daughter.
story.
And my oldest daughter had 3 kids, and we were all living in this 3-bedroom apartment. And we stayed with her for about 4 months. And I thank God I met my husband, and he was like, you know what? I got an empty house, which could be yours for the girls, and you guys could be comfortable. We're 2 grown adults. We both know what we want. This will be our third, marriage. And we both know what we want. We learn from our mistakes. And I took that leap of faith and I found an amazing man. And I thank God that he put him in my path. And he saw my struggle every day I got up and I went to a job where I was making $8 an hour, which you can't feed nobody on $8 an hour. And I got up every day and went to work. I didn't complain. I thank God that I had a car to get to that job and I had a paycheck at the end of the week. And he believed in my dream that I wanted to have a venue. And he took all of his retirement money and gave it to me and said, I need you to do a Donald Trump and make shit happen. And I was like, okay. And here we are 9 years later. Yes, I've had my stumbles. I've doubted myself. But you know what? I also have a lot of good people in my life that pray for me, pray for my success. They call me, they check in on me, they make sure I'm good. And my husband every single day calls me around lunchtime. Did you eat? Because I know you get busy and you forget to eat. And just
Right.
having that every day, that kind of support, that kind of love. My best friends, we call each other every couple of days. I have one in Texas and one in New York. Every couple of days, we're constantly calling each other. And, I know they're going through their stuff and they're seeing me succeed. And I'd be like, not too long now, it'll be your guys' turn. You know what I mean? And any way I can support them and be there for them, not only emotionally, but physically too, because every once in a while you need to have your best friend near you where you could just hug them and cry together and laugh together. It's hard when your best friend is in a whole nother state. So I told my one friend in New York, I'm like, it's your turn to come to me because I went to you last time. So now it's your turn to come over here and be
Yeah,
in my
sure, sure.
world. And I am really blessed to have the friends that I have and to have the support system that I have, not only here in the office, but at home and with my friends. And now I'm building a business community. Last night I connected with another girl that does pop-up shops. And she was like, I am so glad that you said you want to collaborate. And we were talking. And this morning, my husband was like, that conversation that you guys had last night, you guys are going to start something amazing. And for my husband to say that, it really takes a lot because he never gets in my business. He never really gives an opinion. But he was like, you two together, y'all got some great ideas. And I can't wait to see what you guys do together. And I was really surprised that he said anything because usually he stays quiet and he's very reserved. And he's like, babe, you're making some amazing connections this year. Like, this is your year. You're going to kick some butt. So I'm super
And here
excited.
we are.
I am. And look, this opportunity showed up. You called me out of the blue. And I was just coming back from that venue that I went to see in Eustis. Oh my God, this barn was gorgeous. It was beautiful. So
Yeah, I've actually been out there a few times. It's great. Well, go ahead.
mm, I'm just glad that you gave me this opportunity, to share some of my experiences with you. And I am super happy that you guys are doing this with vendors in the industry because I think it's right that people can share their story, our little rags to riches, little stories and things like that. And
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know,
Sure.
I know God's not done yet. He has big plans and I can't wait to see what he has in store for me. And a lot of people are like, are you going to get another building? And I'm like, that's the goal. That's the goal. I have a big goal and I'm usually reach my goals. I get really focused and I reach them. So I'm super excited for this new journey that I'm on now. And now I'm doing more planning than ever before because now I'm really planning. Now it's not just my venue where I could just show up
Right,
and
right.
take my time all week decorating. Now I have to really plan and pack up my little bags and get my trailer and fill it up and bring everything to the events. So now I'm really, really planning, events more than ever. But I'm just happy to have found so many amazing, beautiful venues. And there are so many. And every other day, another one opens. Like, there's definitely, I think, more venues now than they were 5 years ago, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Marilyn, you
So
have been an absolute amazing guest on our show. We couldn't be happy to have you on, and we couldn't happy to have you on the show. So many good topics, so many good advice that you've offered. To our listeners out there, you can find Marilyn at Amore Events II, but I think it's spelled out with two I's, I'm not mistaken, .com. Man, I couldn't recommend a better wedding planner. Marilyn, any other shout outs before we let you go?
no, but I forgot to mention that I also what I actually do, right? I am a planner, I'm a coordinator, I am a designer. I can decorate your events. And now we're offering centerpiece rentals. And I'll give you guys a little tour of the beautiful centerpieces I have here in my office. And that is a new service that we're offering now to brides that do not want the big price tag, but they want something beautiful. They could come in, make their selection on the centerpieces they want to use. We deliver them, we pick them up. So they're not stressed out about how they're going to get the centerpieces there or who's going to bring them or who's going to get them. We give the full service. So you just come in, you pick, lock in your date, and you're done. So it's that easy.
Done.
You come in, you
Love it.
pick, you
Perfect.
pay. Do if you want to do layaway, you want us to plan your whole wedding, we do layaway your wedding and we make it happen. We make your dreams a reality. So that's what I'm here for. Amore Events II and consulting. So my number is 386-259-4164. And you can reach me anytime. You can call or text that number. And I can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to give me this platform to explain about my business, to tell you about my experiences, and keep following your dreams.
Will do. Thanks again, Maryland. We'll see you on the next episode of Eventful Endeavors. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.